AM 560, The Answer.
From the Matrix Home Solutions studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560, The Answer.
Listen to AM 560 The Answer online at 560theanswer.com, on the AM 560 mobile app, on your Alexa-powered smart speaker, and on TuneIn, iHeart, and on Odyssey. America First with Sebastian Gorka, today at 3, right before Sean Thompson at 4 on AM 560 The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. Peter Fleming was a French teacher at in the West Point, Virginia. West Point, Virginia. Got too many Wests in there. West Point, Virginia School District. Yeah. And Peter Fleming, by all accounts, including a student walkout on his behalf after he was fired, pretty popular. Over at the Daily Signal, they interviewed a number of students in this West Point school district who had Fleming for French, and they rave about him. Here's what happened.
But when I explained to my principal that I couldn't in good conscience pronounce masculine pronouns to refer to a girl, he gave me an official written reprimand and said it was the first step in a process that would lead to my termination. The ultimatum said that in order for me to be allowed back in the classroom, that I would have to proactively use male pronouns to designate the students.
Mm-hmm. And he said, Fleming, I understand her point of view, the students, and respected the fact that she could choose to think what she wants to think, and it's not my place as a teacher to pronounce any position I might have on the subject, but I couldn't in good conscience designate her via third-person pronoun as a boy. And so the school board voted 5-0 to fire him. He was characterized as harassing and discriminating against the student and being insubordinate. Interesting comment from a teacher in a neighboring school district in Mecklenburg, basically saying what happened to Fleming, it just creates fear because everybody else is afraid if they don't follow these cultural diktats, then they're going to suffer the same fate. Not only did he lose his job, but I think the whole thing has put other people in a position where they're scared that they will lose their job if they don't toe the line of current popular culture, progressive culture, said Tom Nichols, who is a superintendent, actually, of the Mecklenburg County Public Schools in Virginia. I think this is in part what our friend Salena Zito is getting to in her most recent piece. This is over at amgreatness.com. It's the Culture Stupid. Salena Zito, national political reporter, author of The Great Revolt Inside the Populist Coalition Reshaping American Politics. You can also get her writings at salenazito.com. Salena joins us now. Salena, thanks for being with us. Appreciate it.
Good morning. Thanks so much for having me.
So the Peter Fleming, Leah Thomas, particularly Leah Thomas, a much more high-profile case. But these are the sort of examples that have ripple effects throughout their communities, whether it's a community of sport or it's a community of in a school district type setting. And it seems to me there's so many of these that people are that it's informing the choices that people are making when it comes to public officials, as we saw with Glenn Youngkin in Virginia.
Yes, absolutely. I think one of the things that was, and I've written about this several times, but one of the things that was missing about the 2020 election, because everyone focused on Donald Trump and Joe Biden winning that election, was that down ballot, meaning elected officials down from the presidency, whether it was U.S. Senate, Congress, state house, state senators, governors, etc. The country pushed further center right than it did in 2016, meaning more conservative officials were elected. Now let's think about this for a minute. Let's step back for a second. What was going on in 2020? Well, there was the heavy push with Black Lives Matter. There were the signs in the neighbors' yards that hate has no place here. There was condemnation from corporations and National Football League and Major League Baseball, right? Everyone was pushing and trying to shame everyone to go further left. However, now, despite being pushed so hard, people did the opposite. They said enough, and they voted. They didn't, go out and protest. They didn't go out and cause a scene. They just said no. They continued that sort of drift center-right in the 2021 elections. Now, 21 elections aren't that sexy, right? It's just New Jersey and Virginia that have governor's races, and both of them went obviously center-right with Youngkin, but also down ballot in the Attorney General's office, in the Lieutenant Governor's office, in the House of Delegates, but also in New Jersey. The Democrat incumbent governor barely won, and down ballot again, the voters voted for conservative candidates. And that happened all across the country. Pennsylvania, the state that I live in, became remarkably more conservative down ballot. So despite our cultural curators, people in corporations, in entertainment, in Hollywood, in the national media, and in government and institutions in academia, despite them all sort of lockstep trying to push the country further left, the country in response, meaning the people, said, yeah, no, sorry, we're going the other direction because y'all have gone and done too much overreach in everything in our lives.
Well, how did COVID play into that, especially, with the lockdowns and all of that, and schools not being open?
Yeah, right. So in the beginning, probably the first 3 to 4 months of COVID, nobody really knew what was going on, and we were willing to be sort of protective of each other. But as more information came out and more people understood the risks, we started to understand that there was too much overreach. But again, our cultural curators were not curious about that. They had sort of had a taste of power and a taste of pushing everyone around, whether it was academia or institutions or government or school districts. They had that taste of power and they continued to use it. And little by little, people started saying, enough. This is just too much. You're not using science as something that is informative. You're using it as a weapon, and you're only using the data that you want to control that power. And I think there's also this sort of assumption among our cultural curators that people are, stupid, right. But they're not. And they watch their children suffer. They watch their parents suffer. They lost parents and weren't even able to be there to say goodbye to them or hold their hands. That's never going away. That sentiment isn't magically going away because everyone in Washington, D.C. decided not to wear a mask for the State of the Union address, and Dr. Fauci has now belongs on a milk carton because no one can find him anymore.
Yeah, he's doing like Wayne's World and cable access shows these days. It's interesting you point out, because everybody took their masks off for the State of the Union address as some sort of, grand watershed moment. And yet, what do we know? We know the People's Convoy stopped in Indiana and rallied with thousands of supporters in Indiana yesterday. There's an 8-mile-long caravan of trucks that moved out towards Ohio on Thursday and is yesterday and is still on its way to D.C. So you say, well, wait a second. The mandates are slowly being lifted. Everything is, moving along. And the People's Convoy is a good indication that, no, you're not hearing us. You don't quite get what we're saying. Right.
So there's this thing in American people that has has been in our DNA, whether our family has been here for 9 generations or 9 weeks or 9 days or 9 hours, in that we want to be part of something bigger than ourselves. We want to stand shoulder to shoulder with our neighbors and our families and our communities, even though we have wildly different points of view. And this aspirational sentiment is reflective in how what people see the truckers. People know that we certainly did not have the excessive, even though we did have excessive mandates. We certainly didn't have the excessive mandates that they had in Canada. However, you saw Americans really just get behind and be inspired by those truckers as they spent weeks trying to let their voice be heard in Ottawa and along the American-U.S. border. And
well,
I think
the other thing too, not sorry to interrupt, but the other thing too is what they realize and what the ruling class doesn't think they realize is, we didn't have the same mandates as Canada, but it wasn't for a lack of trying. I mean, there was a real effort made by these people. Yeah. Yeah, that was the point I was getting to. That certainly they were. I mean, thank you, Supreme Court, for saying, yeah, y'all can't do that. But they, a lot of Americans saw themselves in our Canadian neighbors, and saw the same frustrations that they had felt or we had felt for the past 2 years. Look, we have lost a lot in 2 years. Our children have lost a lot. We have lost family members. And I'm not just talking about with the pandemic, with coronavirus, but because of some of the, decisions that were made because of coronavirus. I could name on both hands and 2 feet the amount of small businesses that I had frequented that are now gone. Mm-hmm. Family businesses that are second, third, fourth generation, gone. I'll never see them again. I'll never walk in that store. I'll never have that warm greeting. I'll never have someone that knew my first name. Right. And that's a loss. You feel that loss.
Well, our government leaders, I mean, they took time and life experiences away from our children, and you can't ever get that back, and I don't think that could ever be forgiven. But what you can do, and what I think the People's Convoy is trying to do, is, end the emergency orders and hire those people back. I mean, New York alone has 1,400 plus first responders, police officers, firefighters, EMTs that got fired because they didn't get vaccinated. And that's what they told me that's what they're fighting for. We're having the same problem in Chicago with our EMT, Chicago firefighters, and police officers. And until that goes back, and nurses too, don't forget them. So until they get rehired, I think we have to keep up the fight. What do you think?
I think even, here's the thing that's not going to go away. All these cultural curators think they can erase what's happened and the impact. And they can't, because it's in all of us. All of us have a story that has either happened directly to us or someone that we care deeply about. And we cannot erase that from our memory. It is an integral part of who we are, and that's not going away. And that's why I think people are looking at protests such as the Convoy as something that says, "Hey, we're still here." It's no different than when you go to a football game, or then you hear people chanting "Let's go, Brandon." Yeah. It's just people think it's vile and it's vulgar. No, it's not. It's a reminder that we're still here. And people think that "Let's go, Brandon" is just about Joe Biden. No, it's not. It's actually about the media misrepresenting what that crowd was saying. And it's a poke at the media as well for always trying to deliver what they want you to hear, as opposed to what is really happening. There's nuance in everything that has happened to us that my profession doesn't spend enough time exploring.
She is Salena Zito, national political reporter, author of The Great Revolt: Inside the Populist Coalition, Reshaping American Politics. And you can always check out her work at salenazito.com. Salena, thanks as always. Appreciate it.
Thanks, you guys. Have a great day.
Thanks, you too. And she joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Connect with Dan and Amy using the AM560 mobile app. Download it today at 560theanswer.com/mobile.
Whether you want to travel on-road, off-road, or off the grid, Line X has you covered. When you want the best protection from everything Mother Nature can throw at you, Line X has that covered too. For high-quality bed liners and truck accessories designed to endure the elements and last a lifetime, ask for Line X Spray-On Protective Coatings and travel on. Don't just protect it, Line X it at Line X of Roselle. This is the truck protection for hardworking folks hauling stuff all over Chicago roads and getting beat up in Chicago weather. Line X of Roselle can set you up with spray-on bed liners and accessories for your truck. They also do undercoat and rust proofing on pickup trucks, cars, and light-duty vehicles. You'll have the peace of mind knowing your truck is protected along with your cargo. Call Steve at Line X of Roselle, 630-980-8020, or go to lineextremetrucks.com.